Hi, Grey Couch family. This
Hello.
is Stanley,
And it's Tito.
and welcome to February. And we're starting February with a special treat.
Mm-hmm.
The couple that we are about to introduce you guys to, we've known them
A long time.
for a while. Yeah, there's history there. Let's just put that there's history there. But in all this time, they have always been very authentic, reliable, and just I'm going to stop. I'll let them continue and then you can get to meet them. But
Yeah.
you are in good hands, is what I want to say. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves in just a minute. But before then, I can tell you that there are a lot of nuggets that we were going to glean from them. Wisdom, experience. They're both professionals and thought leaders in their fields. Fields of finance and healthcare, respectively. They've been married for 21 years. I'm getting ahead of myself. Yes. So looks can and will be deceiving.
Yeah.
They have 2 adult boys, and they've been active in ministry for X years, where X ranges from 20 to 30, quote unquote. And they've counseled countless couples. And again, we're in good hands. So I'll let them introduce themselves. And voila. Hi.
So thank you so much for having us here. I know we were trying to get this to happen, so a couple of months ago, but here we are. So thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Wale and
Ayo.
We're glad to be here. I mean, we've watched what you guys do, and we're happy at the kind of content that you guys put out there, the people you bring on, and so we're happy to be here. I mean, we've been married now, like you said, 21 years. Time flies, right? They say time flies.
Adult marriage, officially adult, like official drive, drink.
Officially now. We just started.
Yeah. And we've known each other combined, I think, well, if we've been married 21 years, maybe like 28, 29 years.
Wow.
Okay.
So we've known each other, I mean, the greater part of our lives.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice.
All right. So thanks for introducing yourselves. Before we get started, I want to, if you can tell our viewers your story, how you met and how you got married. It's been a minute now, but
It will be in a minute.
Yeah.
But we find that sometimes going back to that story allows you to say, oh, okay, I did a good thing here.
Yeah, I'll let Ayo start on that one.
Actually, we grew up in the same church, and really that's where we met.
Okay.
And we went to the same college, and we're in the same college ministry.
Okay.
And he just couldn't keep his eyes off me. That's my story. And we were friends. We were serving together. Of course, I was attracted to him as a person, but more as a personality.
Yeah.
His character, his love for God, his love for the people of God. And I think our friendship grew. Of course, we prayed about it. At least I prayed about it. And I knew what God told me, and history.
The rest is history. Well, I guess I didn't have to pray. I just knew that I knew that
I know.
So that's basically our story. And we thank God for the journey so far. It's been with its ups and downs, but through it all, we can say God has been faithful. And if I had to make a choice over again, 1 million times, I would still choose her.
Oh. Oh, yeah. Okay. So you when we bring people on the couch, we kind of give them like free way to say, tell us the topics that you want to speak to our audience about. So both of you, you picked two key ones, right? Communication and money, right? I feel like these are the two, because the other parts, you may have children, you may not have, but this one, whether you have, whether you don't have, these are the two ones. So I'm gonna kick the ball, right? Set the ball rolling. And in terms of communication, right? So 21 years is a long time, a long, good time, right? And that makes me so happy. I don't know, it makes me so happy to see that people have gone the stretch and everything is still, wonderful. So how does communication look like from your perspective now as people in an adult marriage, right? How did it evolve over the years of your union, right? So if you're talking about communication, what would be something that you have now that maybe you've seen it evolve over the 21 years compared to when you first got married?
That's a great question. I'll start.
Okay.
I'd say, so before we got married, I moved to the United States.
Okay.
I was here for a couple of years before going back from Nigeria. And then we got married, and then she joined me here. So when she joined me here, new environment for her, she came with our son who was born, a year after we got married. So it was a completely new environment, new setting. She was preparing for her exams. So a lot of stress. And, the beginning years, like everybody else, money is tight, everything is tight. And all those things somewhat affect even communication, right? So we were both, of course, serving the Lord. I was always busy. It was like she came into my territory. So I think at the beginning, I didn't give so much time to, communicating in the sense of listening deeply to her. Just assume that, well, she's fine. Everything is going to be fine. And that caused, some stress in our communication at the time, to the point of, well, you're not listening to me. You're always listening to other people, and so on and so forth. But as we, have grown, our communication has matured. And now we can say things that maybe we couldn't say back then. There was a time that I would say we were both emotionally lazy in the sense of communication, in the sense that, I don't want her to feel bad, so I'm not going to say this. And she probably will say the same thing. And when you do that, it makes your communication to be shallow. So, but that's still something we're still learning. So,
I think over the years, really, what we've had to learn is to be more vulnerable with one another. I think that's really the word, as in when you talk about being emotionally lazy, once we are like that, what happens is we're afraid of conflict. You don't want to go there, but then you don't grow in your relationship if that happens. You don't know what I like. You don't know how not to do the things. You don't even know what pleases me, just because we're not having those deep conversations. And I find that once we try to leave, like we say that the absence of conflict does not mean everything is fine.
Yeah.
It's just that we just don't want to go there. But once we are able to be bold enough, because I think it takes a lot of boldness, it takes a lot of vulnerability. There's just some intimacy that grows when you're able to cross that line to say, I can speak my heart. I can be bold enough to be myself. I can tell him the good things about myself. I can tell him the bad things about myself, and I'm not going to be judged. And I think that takes a while when you get married to get to that point, to say, I can open up to him and I know that I'm safe. I'm safe. I think the problem most of the time is, especially because most of us start off on a rocky foundation, and we kind of learn those bad habits to keep to ourselves, and we don't grow in our relationships, and we just never achieve that, intimacy that we should in our communication.
I know, I love it. I've been just thinking about, the laziness, right? Just not wanting to put in the work. That's the way I'll put it, right? Like, it's just like, it's too hard because of the vulnerability and all that is, involved. And so, I mean, the next question, right? So it's almost like from, I know one of you is a physician. So from the perspective of a couples physician, right? Who is kind of helping biblical counseling of couples. And obviously we're not asking you to divulge details, but what is a way that you've seen over the years, right, that with couples communication tends to go awry? Like, what is the most common thing that causes communication to go, as opposed to going upward, right? It's kind of going downhill. So what is something that you say, if you were to sum it up and I said one word, right, what is something that you say causes a breakdown of communication among couples?
One word?
Yes, let's try for one word. It can be two, but let's try for one.
My one word actually would just be pride.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pride, fear. Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Not listening.
I love it.
Teachable.
Ego. Did you say ego?
Well, you can say it that way. Yeah. Which is, ego. Yep.
Yeah.
So on this area of communication, right, and with our cultural background and our Christian background also, being that what we say about Christians, say that I'm a Christian, and so I shouldn't be having all these problems. I'm saved. Why am I having all these issues with communication? Because what are your thoughts on that?
Actually, I think one of the biggest problems that people have about, not just about marriage, about life in general, is assuming that there's not going to be problems.
Yeah.
So that when problems happen, you're surprised and you don't face it. There's the tendency as Christians to believe that, by praying and speaking in tongues, worshiping, it would just take away all the problems that you have. But we all know that that's not the case. One does not substitute for the other. But we just have to realize that we have the Spirit of God in us. We have the Word of God to consult, to teach us, and we will all have to grow in these areas. And as long as we are living, there will be problems. Always be. And it doesn't mean you're not living right, doing right. It's just because there is life. Jesus Christ was with his disciples. He told them, let's go to the other side. What was the first thing they encountered? Storm. Jesus encountered storm. There will be storm in your marriage. There will be storm in communication. There will be storm. But you have what it takes to overcome.
I think the thing also about being a Christian is that sometimes we, just like you said, we assume just that because I'm a child of God, I don't have to work at my relationship. We assume that because I married a pastor or things should fall in place. Unfortunately, if you look at the divorce rates, or let's don't forget divorce rates, look for unhappy homes, it's comparable both in a Christian home and a non-Christian home. Which is unfortunate, because that just means that we're not working the Christian principles. Because if we work those principles, they will work for us. So I think a lot of us live on the basis of assumption that it's just going to happen. If I marry my soulmate, everything will be fine. But no, whatsoever we sow is what we're going to reap. If we do not sow into our relationships and we take each other for granted, we're going to reap crap. So I think that's really where, and of course I wouldn't say it's our leaders or something like that, because it's my responsibility to know what the Word of God says. and not just to know it, but to do it. So I will say we're not doing the word. If we do what God says the way God says it, our homes will be better for it. But when we want our homes to just look like the homes of the world, and there's no difference, then the kind of problems that the world will have, we're also going to be having them.
I hear you. I hear you. It's interesting. I'm still thinking about the thing you said when you said, what is the biggest, barrier, right? Or the biggest thing in one word. And, she said pride. Yeah, I'm still thinking about that because we have that conversation often to say that pride is like, what's the word? Almost like, not a besetting sin, but something that we struggle with, right, from our country of origin. And so if you combine that and you combine not working, on your relationship, then you kind of have a recipe for things not working, right? And then it's blame back and forth. So it was interesting that came up from people, from you who have counseled couples, over the years. So thank you.
All right. Going to the next one. Money. Money. All right. So our first question on money is, why are money, quote unquote, finance conversations so hard to have? You have a couple of guys together or whatever, we'll talk about everything, sports, weather, listening, but how are you doing financially will not come up. And then it carries over to, if you have kids, you married your kids, as in, oh, credit card debt is, I didn't know I was owing so much, or your kids, as in balance account. What does that mean? So why are those conversations, in your opinion, would you say, are they so hard to have with couples?
Remember, you're talking to a finance person. So it will probably be hard for him. So just so you know.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's always the part of upbringing. Right? Many of us grew up in an environment where nobody talked about money. You only talk about money when you needed to get money from your parents.
Yes.
Nobody talked about, you knew daddy went to work, he came home, mommy got money, and things were bought. But you were never included in any part of the conversation. Nobody ever told you when they didn't have money or when they had money. So that plays a role in how you view money. Right? And that affects the way, what money means to you. Because like we talk about different love language, there's different money language too. And whatever money means to you, which will most likely be different from what it means to your spouse, it also now play a role in how open you want to be. I remember before we got married, a member of the family, an older member of the family, I think she was in her 90s at the time, and said to me, "Keep your secret secret." And I mean, she was in her 90s, like I said, but we joke about that. But somehow that's kind of the seed that has been sowed in the hearts of so many of us growing up, that husband and wife, keep this separate, don't talk about it because you're afraid. So some people, if she knows how much I have, then she wants to spend everything, or she wants to kill me so she can get it. So there's so many different reasons, and so sometimes it's also because we're not individually good at managing money, so we don't want to expose our weaknesses. We don't want to show wash our dirty laundry outside. And we can carry that into our marriage too, and that causes a lot of problem, a lot of friction if not dealt with right from the beginning.
I think the question of how your money scripts, right? I love that you said that there are different money languages. So
I picked that up too.
We want to probably, go off on that after this. Like, we want to hear from you. But if, like, two families coming together, right? Or two people from two separate families coming together. How did your money scripts come together? If you have those, like money scripts being
money
the things
language.
you were raised with around money, how did you manage to fuse it together and get something that is working for both of you?
Do you want to start off on that?
Well, what I would say is, I guess we have to be open to learn. You know, like he did say, he was here. He's a money person. He knew the system, and I came in. I didn't have any money, you know, so we were all living on one income. I didn't understand the concept of credit cards. I thought it was from the pit of hell. As if you don't have the money, you don't have to buy it. You don't spend it. So what I would credit Wally for, though, is that through the process, he tried to teach me. I didn't want to learn, but he was persistent.
I love it.
Yeah, so it wasn't like I was, let me learn everything. No. If you don't have the money, we don't have to spend it.
Yeah.
But he had to teach me the process, what credit cards mean, why you need to have one. It's not for you to rack up the bill, it's for you to have a credit history. Why you are able to borrow from the bank and yet still have a good credit score. So those things were really strange, and I'm still learning, and I still ask questions, and some of them are still stupid questions, but he will still answer them.
I love it.
Sometimes it's patient, sometimes it's not so patient, but he keeps teaching.
It's like teaching a child to drive, huh?
I know, right? Yeah, so I think that really is, if we're both patient with one another, then we're able to come together. And of course, when you share each other's dreams about money, then it's easier for us to get to the same page. It doesn't happen overnight. You know, I didn't buy his vision, or I didn't buy this is the way we should go immediately, but I had to learn. And then the more I learned, I also surprisingly was able to even give some input, even though that's not my strong point. So it's almost like you bring each other up to where you want to be, because, you know, doing it together is usually better. Even if it's one person's strength, we found out that when we do it together, when we make decisions together, we make better decisions.
Absolutely.